Good evening, everybody. My name is Nora Zimmerman. I'm a member of the University Lecture Committee, or ULC. ULC and the Homecoming Committee would like to welcome you to our event tonight in conversation with Ettore Big E Ewen. I would like to introduce tonight's moderator, Joe Conklin, a former Iowa football letter winner and a 2009 graduate of the University of Iowa, currently serves as the Executive Director of Development for Intercollegiate Athletics at the University of Iowa Center for Advancement. Joe and Ettore have known each other since 2007, sharing a close bond as fellow football letter winners. They briefly lived together near campus and later worked side by side at a local downtown establishment. Their friendship has endured over the years, often reconnecting in Iowa City or while following the Iowa football program on the road. Finally, it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's speaker. Ettore Ewen is an actor and global television personality best known as WWE superstar Big E, where he held the WWE World Championship and Tag Team Championship title as a part of the mega popular group The New Day. Ettore starred in the Roku series WWE Next Gen, while his voice work can be found in Adult Swim's Laser Wolf alongside an upcoming series on Disney+. Ettore has been seen across every major network, appearing on game shows, award shows, variety shows, and beyond. As a public figure, Ettore champions and is for the understanding of mental health awareness, along with the importance of empathy in sports. He is known by many as a sports entertainer, actor, producer, and motivational speaker.
Thank you guys so much. It is so incredible to be here at the University of Iowa, to come back. Love seeing my good friends, Mike Sabers and his lovely wife, Alyssa. Thank you for being here. And also my beloved girlfriend, Kristen. Thank you guys for being here. And thank you all for being here as well. I really appreciate it. It is really, again, a joy to be back on campus. I often think of the first line in A Tale of Two Cities when I think of my time here in Iowa. It was the best of times, and it was also the worst of times. And for me, it was the best of times because being here was truly a dream. I always dreamed of playing college football. I remember being a little kid, and it was the first thing that really caught my imagination, that I was enamored by. And Big Ten football especially, you know, on ESPN, you see these noon kicks, it's Iowa versus Indiana, and football was always my dream. That was always what I wanted to do. And the opportunity to be a part of this program when Iowa in 2003, I believe, had just finished 8th in the country. Robert Gallery was just drafted number 2 overall. A great strength coach, Coach Ferentz, had a great reputation as well. So for me, it was a no-brainer. And I only played 1 year of high school football. Typically, for those of you who know, your junior year is your critical year of being recruited. And I didn't have a junior year. I only played my senior year. I was also wildly short for my position, so I had a lot of obstacles to overcome. And for me to get a scholarship offer here to the University of Iowa was honestly a miracle in so many ways. So I feel so fortunate to have had the chance to play Big Ten football. I had a bunch of injuries that I'll get into later, but when I was actually on the field my redshirt sophomore year in 2006, we got to play number 1 Ohio State with game day in town. We played number 2 Michigan at the Big House. So I really got to live out this dream of playing major college football. And that was amazing. It was really amazing. But for me, it was also the worst of times, my time here, because I got here in 2004, and I was really excited to be a part of this team and to contribute. And in 2004, I tore my left ACL. And you know, ACL injuries occur, and I was really bummed. I thought I would have an opportunity to play that year. Actually, my defensive line coach, Coach Ewen, pulled me aside. And at the time, we had a bunch of guys who would go on to play in the NFL on the defensive line. We had Matt Roth. We had Jonathan Babineau, who played over a decade for the Falcons. And I was going to get a chance. He pulled me aside and said, "We're not going to redshirt you this year. You're going to play." And for me, man, as a true freshman, to play with these guys who would go on to become legends was truly, truly a dream. But it was about maybe a day or two later, I tore my ACL, and I went through recovery and rehab. And for those of you who've dealt with an injury or anything, you know that's a bit of a grind. So I went through that, 9 months of that, to come back to have essentially the same thing happen almost a year to the day to my other knee. So I was going through a really tough time. For me, I think one thing that we often talk about with athletes is we talk about the time you're out we talk about the physical toll, but what we don't talk about is the mental toll. And I think for a lot of us, that loss of identity, because when you're hurt, you're not able to do the thing you love. You're not around your teammates. You have this feeling. I felt so much like I was stealing from the university. I was taking a scholarship and I wasn't contributing. I wasn't giving back. And that feeling of not being able to be out there. And even though I was still showing up to team meetings, I was still a part of the team, and everyone did their best to still include me, that feeling like I wasn't worthy, like I didn't belong here, was something that really permeated in me. And after the second ACL tear, I was really struggling. And Coach Aiken, at the time, my defensive line coach, noticed, and he had me go see someone. And that person was a man named Marvin Sims, who was an incredible man. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. He passed away a few years ago because of cancer. And he was beyond patient with me, but I really struggled to open up in therapy. I come from, as a child, I was always taught that a man keeps his emotions to himself, that a man doesn't let others know when he's feeling sad, when he's feeling down. And for me, I just learned to internalize everything. I never tried to show pain to those around me. I didn't let my good friends know what I was going through, and I internalized so much of that. But for me, that just made things worse, just bottling things up. And at 19 years old, I was diagnosed with clinical depression, and it just was not an easy fix for me. Although I was in therapy, I was still struggling to open up. I also ended up seeing a psychiatrist, and I was struggling with finding the right balance with medication. That was really, for me, just really up and down, trying to not feel like a zombie, on certain SSRIs, antidepressants. I felt like I wasn't clear-headed. I really struggled finding that right balance. I was eventually put on nortriptyline and SSRI, but I was also diagnosed with psychotic features, a major depression with psychotic features. And essentially, my depression was so bad, so pervasive, that I started hallucinating. And although I realized what I was seeing wasn't real, it was still there in front of me. And during that time, from ages 19 to 23, it was really the hardest time of my life by far. In many ways, a living hell internally. My depression just continued to get worse and worse to the point that I was actually in a psych ward for a month. I was someone who didn't want to hurt myself. I didn't want to take my own life, but I was struggling so much internally. I had so many dark, difficult days that I just wanted it all to end. And I continued to try to adjust my medication. I continued to go to therapy, but I still struggled for many, many years. Eventually, the psych ward was a last resort, and there I went through 9 different rounds of ECTs, electroconvulsive therapy, and essentially they put you under, and it's shock treatment in order to change your brain chemistry. So that was something that happened, and I remember being in the hospital for a month and thinking that, school is on hold. I don't know if I'll ever be able to complete my degree. Football was over for me because in addition to the 2 ACL tears, I also broke my right patella, I tore my left pec, and I ended up taking a medical hardship with the program. So essentially, I was still on scholarship, I was still able to go to classes, but I was no longer on the football team. And, it was really a time where if it wasn't for the people in my life, I know I wouldn't be here right now. I can point to people like Mike, to my other roommates, who would pull me aside and say, "We're really worried about you. Something is wrong." I can point to the coaches who asked me to go to therapy, who asked how I was doing, who saw that something was wrong. And I was someone who really didn't know how to tell someone I'm hurting. I didn't know how to tell those around me that I don't want to be here anymore. And just over time, I eventually found the right balance of medication. Talk therapy eventually helped over many, many years. And eventually, I learned to open up. I think the ECTs eventually helped. And I got to a point where things were manageable. And I often think of antidepressants as a life raft. I truly felt like someone who was drowning, someone who was just trying to get air. And for me, the medication just allowed me to stay afloat for a bit until I could continue to get better and better. After being in the hospital for a bit, I eventually returned to school, finished my degree, and I will always think of an incredible woman named Dr. Tina Parrott. She was a professor of mine in undergrad, and one day, as someone who was lost, football was done for me. My dream, although my parents always told me and enforced in me that education is vitally important, that it's something that you always want to pursue. It was always important for me to get my degree. But the thought of being at a desk, being in a job that I could barely stand, something that I wasn't passionate about for the next 40 years, was something that I didn't know how to do. And I felt very lost. My plan was to graduate and go back to Tampa, where I'm from, and hopefully find a job, live with my parents, and just figure things out. But I really had no plan. I didn't know what I wanted to do. The one thing that I loved was, it felt like it was taken from me. But Dr. Parrott pulled me aside one day, and she said, I think you'd be great at grad school. And I never considered grad school. I didn't think I could afford grad school, but she let me know, actually, you can come along as a teaching assistant, and we can make sure that your school is taken care of. Your bills will not be a problem at all. And for someone who was just trying to figure things out, who was still struggling with depression, although it was manageable, I didn't know what I wanted to do in life, and it felt like an opportunity to still stay on campus, to figure things out while I was here. And because of that, I ended up going to grad school. It's still very odd looking back and thinking about the times I was grading papers and teaching exercise fitness. Very, very strange looking back. But it gave me something. And although I was doing well in grad school, it just didn't feel like this was going to be the rest of my life. I could not fathom being here. Kind of the track that I was thinking about doing was being an athletic director. I love sports, and I always loved the idea of being able to help other student athletes find their way. And that was kind of my path, but I still wasn't sure that was it. But because I was here on campus, there's so many times in my life where I'll look back at incredible things that happened, and it's because of people being in my life at the right place at the right time. Because of Dr. Parrott, I was still on campus, and also at the time, Coach Doyle, who was our strength coach, said, even though you're not on the football team, please still come around, still lift. So I was still lifting weights, I was still around, and a good buddy of ours and a former teammate, Mike Humple, was also working out with me. And because I was on campus and I was working out with Mike Humple, he happened to know a man named Mike Doherty. And Mike Doherty was close with the Iowa wrestling program, and he actually met Jim Ross, who was with WWE at the time, on a plane, very randomly. And JR and he started talking, and he said, if there are any Iowa wrestlers who are done with their amateur wrestling career who might want to be involved with professional wrestling, please let us know. So Mike Doherty talked to Mike Humple talked to me, and although I grew up a huge wrestling fan, Goldberg was my favorite wrestler. I got to meet him at a signing years ago. There's a very silly, if anyone here is a wrestling fan, there's a very silly clip about me spewing a big meaty men is something that I really enjoyed. But I'm talking about my love for Goldberg. And as a kid, I gravitated to the big meaty men of wrestling. So I never fathomed, if you asked me to make a list of 1,000 jobs, pro wrestler would never be on that list. I never considered being a pro wrestler. Although I loved it as a kid, it was something I stopped watching around about 13 years old. And we had a teammate actually named Seth Olson and a roommate who lived in our house, and we would always make fun of him for watching pro wrestling. I thought it was silly. What are you doing? You're a grown man. So the idea of me actually doing this profession never crossed my mind. But because of those people in my life, because of a Dr. Parrott who said, I think you can do this. As someone who always struggled with my sense of self, I was someone who was never brimming with confidence. I was a very quiet, introverted kid. In fact, my mental health struggles they didn't start in college. I have this vivid memory of being 9 years old and looking in the mirror and deeply loathing myself, wanting to be anyone but myself. And it was really a constant struggle for me dealing with my mental health, but things really just exacerbated in college. But this opportunity that Mike brought me with WWE, I thought, you know what? I'm kind of lost right now. this might be an opportunity, but let me find out more. So I had an opportunity to sit down with Mike Doherty, and he told me more. Eventually that led to a tryout in Tampa, a job that I took on a whim, and I was fortunate enough that WWE offered me this job. And around the time I was 23 years old, my mental health slowly started getting better to the point where I felt like I could get off of SSRIs, off of antidepressants, and I felt like I was afloat. And I was able to stumble into this career that has been the most amazing journey I could have ever asked for. And along the way, I learned to love myself. I learned that I am good at something, that I can entertain people. This time, the last 15 years, a job that I took on a whim 15 years ago, I look back now, and I am so grateful that I never hurt myself. I am so grateful that I never took my life. Even when I woke up day after day and didn't know what my purpose was, I didn't know why I was alive, I didn't know why I suffered so much, I didn't know why I struggled so much with my mental health. I couldn't make sense of any of it. I couldn't make sense of being in a psych ward and having no desire to see another day. I didn't know why God or the universe or the creator threw all these things at me, but I look back now and I think of the last 15 years, I think about how much I've grown. I think about all the opportunities I've had. I've been to Europe more times than I can count. I got a chance to wrestle Randy Orton in South Africa. I met this beautiful woman who I'm madly in love with because of wrestling. But so many blessings in my life are because I still stuck around. Because I had people in my life that cared about me, even when I didn't care about myself. And I am so grateful to look back and know that even though life was immensely hard, there was a reason for it. Because now I love that. In fact, today I was on a plane next to a man. We had a conversation. He asked why I was on the plane, where I was going. I told him, actually, I'm coming here to talk about mental health. And he was probably in his 60s. And he told me there was a time, and he started tearing up. There was a time when he was 22 years old where he didn't want to be here anymore, and he had the gun on the table, and he just couldn't do it. And this man started weeping. But the opportunity to be able to speak to people like him and not just have very blanket language about the importance of mental health, but to be able to specifically talk about what I went through, to talk about my own struggles, my own journey to finding self-love and self-worth is so beautiful. And the few times I've had chances to talk to people and had young men who looked like me when I was 22, 20 years old, college football players, massive human beings who come up to me and talk about their own struggles with their mental health, who talk about the times that they didn't want to be here either. That, I feel like, is my purpose now. So I feel like all the things that I went through, all of my pain, all of my struggles with my own mental health, my desires to not be alive anymore, I love now that I have a testimony, that I can stand up here and speak earnestly, openly, and honestly about everything that I went through. But mental health has been such an important part of my life, and meditation and mindfulness the last 4 years has been one of the most life-changing things ever. It's something that I will preach to everyone. I don't endorse the app. They don't pay me for anything, but Headspace was something that a friend of mine suggested many years ago. And I often, I just had these excuses. I travel a lot. I can't do it all the time. I don't really see a benefit yet. I was very sporadic with my practice. But when the pandemic hit, it really changed everything for me. Because I told myself, you're not on planes anymore, you're home every day, you have no more excuses. And so for me, I decided I'm going to meditate every single day, even if it's only 10 minutes a day, every single day. And that for me was so life-changing. Having a mental health practice, having something, whether it's journaling, whether it's meditation, whatever it is, I encourage everyone, whether you're really struggling with your mental health or not, to have some sort of a mental health practice that you practice every single day. Because for me, that has allowed me to be so much more present. I was someone who was always caught up in the trauma of my past or worrying about the future and what would be to come. But meditation has allowed me to stay present and to realize that life is truly a gift, that I'm here for a reason, and to enjoy every single moment. Unfortunately, I've dealt with losing close friends. I had a great friend that we all called Brody. His name is John Huber, and he passed away during the pandemic because of a pulmonary disease. And he was someone that I was really close to. He had 2 incredible kids and a lovely wife, and I always envisioned that we'd have Sunday dinners for decades to come. He lived 15 minutes from me. I always saw him in my life. And when he was gone, it really reinforced to me that life is fragile, that none of this is guaranteed, that we can be gone tomorrow. And I don't want my life to be about the times that I worried about the future. I was too caught up in the past, and I never got to enjoy the present because there truly is so much good. And I've been blessed to have just an immense amount of good. And meditation and mindfulness is something that I will continue to preach. It's something that I will always practice, and I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for the Dr. Parrots in my life, for the Marvin Sims, for the people who took time out of their day to ask how I was doing, to check in on me. I'm here because of them, and I can't thank them enough. And that's why I have so much love for this university. Even though so many of my mental health struggles were here at the University of Iowa, it's the people. It's the community, and the whole Iowa Nice thing, it's real. It's a real thing. I love coming back here. I love the warmth that I receive. I broke my neck 2.5 years ago, and you know what? I had so much love, not just from the wrestling community, but also from the people here in Iowa. And I broke my neck in 3 places. My C1 in 2 places, my C6, and so many people asked, like, this must have been such a tough time. And I want to say, not really. It's actually been pretty smooth because of the growth I've had with my mental health, because of my mindfulness and meditation practice. More than anything, I didn't sit around thinking, man, here's another injury, woe is me, life is so hard, why me? I thought, man, I'm still here. I'm still alive. When I went to the hospital and talked to the doctors, they told me, if you didn't have the neck musculature that you have, you were this close to stroke, to paralysis, to death. And for me, it was just an eye-opener in that, thank God I'm still here. I'm so grateful for another day. Even though I'm in this neck brace for the next 3 months, I'm so grateful to be here, to be pain-free, to have all these incredible people in my life. I had 300 text messages. It took me 3 days to get back to everyone, so many DMs, but I have so much love in my life. And there were so many times where I felt unloved, where I didn't feel valued. I didn't care about myself, and I couldn't feel the love around me. But now I feel so much love from strangers, from my loved ones, from my friends, from my family. And I think back to the times where I felt so little purpose, and now I feel so much immense purpose. I wake up every single day, and I'm excited about life. I'm excited about building a future with my lady. I'm excited about hopefully making an impact on others. I really feel like I'm here for a reason. And I feel like we all are. And finding that purpose really can be so, so difficult. But I got there. And I went through a lot. And I had my ups and downs. But I'm here. And I'm grateful for you all. I'm grateful for the people who showed up to hear me talk. I am always amazed that anyone wants to hear a thing that I have to say. But it has been a true joy. And over these last several years, I have learned to become a performer. I have learned what my purpose is. I have learned who my loved ones are. I have learned that life, although difficult, although fraught with pain, with loss, with grief, there is still so much to live for. There's still so much to fight for, so much to wake up every single day and push for. So I want to always thank this university. I want to thank the people in my life. I want to thank, this is really my second home. I so often refer to Iowa City and the University of Iowa as my second home. And I can now look back at my struggles and the time that I didn't want to be here, that I didn't want to be alive, and I look back and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for those experiences. I'm grateful that I have a testimony, and I'm grateful for all of you. So I want to say, because the university has always meant so much to me, always and forever, it will be Go Hawks. And forgive the cascade of sweat. That is my daily life, all the time, just constantly sweating for no reason. Why are you sweating? But that is my life, so forgive, please. please.
Well, E, thank you so much for sharing that incredible story. So, again, my name is Joe Conklin, former football student athlete, work here at the University of Iowa Center for Advancement. I have the good fortune of meeting great people all across the country. I was fortunate to play alongside of some incredible student athletes, again, from all different walks of life. And Ettore is one of the best human beings I've ever met. So please, if we can give Ettore one more round of applause for sharing that story. So we got a couple questions for you here, E,
Yes,
but
sir.
I just encourage everyone in the audience here tonight. We're going to give you guys all an opportunity to ask E a handful of questions as well. So this will be fully participatory for everyone involved this evening.
Beautiful.
So
Beautiful.
we'll kick off, and some of this is just going to be diving a little bit deeper into some of the topics that you brought up during your lecture, but look forward to a great conversation here. But first, just an incredibly powerful story that you just shared with us. And you've been quoted before saying that, that ultimately health is wealth. So how do you stay well, and what do you do to make sure that you keep your mental health in check?
Yeah, again, it's meditation. It's being on the Headspace app every single day. It has really changed my life. And there's so many things. I feel like so often, one of the things I don't like oftentimes with, people get up with mental health stuff, I always feel like they're trying to sell you something. And that's something I never wanted to be a part of. So I'm not, again, not a part of Headspace. They don't pay me or anything like that. But it really has truly helped me. And for me, as someone who, this concept of rewiring your brain, I never understood until meditation was a regular thing in my life, because I realized there were certain things that were triggers for me, where I would start to kind of spiral internally. If I had an issue with a friend or something, I would start thinking there's something wrong with me. What's wrong with me? I'm not good enough. And I would have this internal monologue, and it would always spiral. And then I realized after months of meditation, there were certain things that happened, a fallout with a friend or something, and I realized, oh, you're reacting to this organically, just differently. And just having a better understanding. One thing that meditation and mindfulness has helped me with is really just empathy for others, but also empathy for myself. And that's been the biggest thing, is learning to be kinder and softer to myself. And when I started doing that, I was able to be kinder, softer, and gentler to others as well. So meditation and mindfulness has been so key to me. It has helped me stay present. I don't worry about the future. I'm not caught up in the drama of the past. And therapy. Even though I'm in such a great headspace, I still have a therapist that I talk to weekly, and it's been great. And I love just having a sounding board that having someone I can talk to and be open with, because I just, so many of us, we just internalize. And I have so many friends too who just say, I don't want to burden you, so don't worry about it. And I'm begging you, I love talking about this stuff. I truly do. Burden me, please. Talk to me. If you have problems, if you're going through it, please, we need each other. We are social creatures. And I think I lived alone for the vast majority of my life, and I learned I craved my alone time. But I realized a lot of that was really just a trauma response. It was learning, okay, there are certain people I had in my life that I felt like I couldn't trust, or who let me down, or who failed me. But I learned, okay, I can self-soothe. I can take care of myself. I don't need anyone. And I learned to push people out. But that didn't heal anything. And I'm such a big believer in this mantra of the only way out is through. If you don't take things head on, for me, just burying things deep inside of me, burying my family stuff, burying my feelings of inadequacy, and never tackling them, never made things better. I might be able to stave off the problem for a few days or a few weeks, but eventually those things would bubble up, and they oftentimes would bubble up even worse. But learning to take all the things that ailed me, all of my trauma, and again, another thing that always sticks in my head is this concept of you're not responsible for your trauma, but you are responsible for your healing. So learning to forgive myself, because little kid me didn't deserve to go through all the things that he went through. It wasn't my fault. None of that was my fault. It wasn't because I was unlovable. I was just in an environment where the people around me didn't have the tools to love me in the way that I needed to be loved. So I learned to unload, to forgive myself, to not carry that burden of thinking that was my fault, that was something that I should carry. But I also learned that I had to take responsibility for myself. I had to learn to be a better person. I had to learn to forgive myself. I had to learn to be kinder and softer to myself. I had to learn self-love. And all these things are things that I didn't really gain, I didn't stumble upon until in my 30s. It took me a long time to get there, but the journey was definitely worth it. It has all been worth it because I'm so grateful to be at this point in my life where I feel so happy. I feel the sense of purpose. I feel fulfilled. And yeah, that's it. I just truly believe in having some kind of a practice. And everyone has their own thing, but for me, it's been mindfulness, meditation, and still being in therapy.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that, E. Yeah, so kind of moving forward here, this probably wouldn't be a stretch of the imagination, but a lot of data is indicating that students all over the country are struggling with mental health challenges. Rates of anxiety, depression, and even suicide ideation are really at all-time highs. What would your message be to students that might be facing those challenges right now?
I think in general, we tend to romanticize your college years and your youth so much, but being 18 to 22 is so damn hard. So many of us are struggling, man. That was such a difficult time in my life, and I talked to so many people that I thought were good, that were in great headspaces, and I talk to them now, like looking back now that we're older, in our 30s, and I realized they were going through it too. They were really struggling as well. And there are just so many different challenges that didn't exist when I was, 18 to 22. It's tough. Like, even I struggle to get off my phone. I struggle to put down Twitter and social media, and I think that's obviously not great for our mental health. But I'm a big believer in community, and I think we don't lean on each other enough. I think we as friends don't check in on each other enough. I think building community is really the solution. And for so many of us who have this feeling that we are a burden to others by talking about what we're going through, please, if you have people around you who really care about you, please believe they would much rather hear what you're going through now than attend your funeral in a week. And I think just this understanding that we all have purpose and finding that purpose might take time, but I truly believe we're all here for a reason. And leaning on each other, more than anything. I think we need each other. I think community and being open and honest with each other about what we're dealing with and what we're feeling, I think that is so important to our mental health because that safety net, that idea of family. For me, my family is found family. My family is my friends. It's the people that I've grown close to over the years, and they're there for me in great ways, and I always try to be there for them. So community is it for me. I think that's it.
Along those same lines, so you mentioned people that were in your inner circle. Whether it was a coach, Marvin Sims, a great teammate like Mike Sabers. I mean, what it was like to have others that were there to lift you up and support you when you were facing mental health challenges. Like, what did that mean to you? And ultimately, what sort of impact did that make on you?
It's everything. It's everything. Like, I don't know if I'm here without them. And it's why I want to be that for other people as well. And I think for me, throughout my life, even before Iowa, it was teachers. I had a great English teacher who let me know that I could read well, I could write well, like I had a real skill. And although I didn't get a lot of my sense of personal value at home, I got it in school. And for a lot of people, school is hard. That's where things are difficult, and you're dealing with bullying, you're dealing with all kinds of difficult things. But for me, I was so fortunate. It's the coaches, it's the teachers, it's the friends in my life, it's the Coach Doyle who said, stick around. It's the people who checked in on me, are so vitally important. And I hope that we all are courageous enough to, when we see people around us who are struggling or we think might be struggling, just even taking it, even if it's a stranger, I can think back to the times where strangers just asked if I was okay or said something nice. And in that moment when I was really struggling, you don't know what a 5-second positive interaction can mean to someone. Honestly, sometimes it can be that much. And one of the crazier parts of my job now is when I have people come up to me randomly, like at a gym. There was someone who had served in the military several years ago. My tag team partner, Kofi Kingston, and I were working out, and he came up to us and said, "You guys saved my life." Whatever it was he was going through, he was in a dark way, and he said he was just flipping through the channels, saw us, and there was something about, for those of you who don't know, we were very, very goofy, very obnoxious. For a while, we were wearing unicorn horns because we talked about bringing magic back to WWE. There's a lot of butt shaking, bright colors. We have a cereal called Bootios. It's very silly. I don't know why anyone let me get away with any of that stuff, but I had a lot of fun. It was really fun. But he said in that moment, there was something about seeing us and our bond on TV, and just, for me as a performer, one of the things I really loved with The New Day is I felt very free as a performer, and I learned to have a lot of fun. And we always thought if people can sense how much fun we're having amongst ourselves, it's like when you see a bunch of people in the corner, they're having a great time, they're laughing, what's going on over there? I think that energy is, it just is something that you want to cling to. So he said something about seeing us on TV, doing us, was enough to inspire him to keep going on for another day. Because he was done. He went through a divorce. He had struggles. But that, for me, is one of the greatest blessings of my job. If I can help someone, even in the smallest of ways, to continue or to find purpose in life, or just to find a reason to exist for another day, that, I think, is what really, really matters.
So universities, much like the University of Iowa, provide a lot of transformative experiences. So how did you transform during your time here in Iowa City, and what were those experiences specifically like?
For me, it was, I was pretty sheltered in many ways as a young man, and getting here on campus, I had to grow up. That was a big thing. Being a part of the football team while also dealing with rehab, dealing with classes, it forced me to become an adult. And although it was difficult, I remember actually I did really well in school, in high school, but I failed a class. I was pre-med. I don't know why I thought I should be pre-med. I wanted to help people, and I thought, yeah, I'll be a doctor. That was a bad idea. Why did they let me do that? So I very quickly got out of that major and ended up with what sounds like a football degree. It's health and sports studies. Anytime anyone asked me, what's your degree? It's like, I wanted to be an athletic director, so that was the route. I know it sounds like a meathead degree, but health and sports studies. So that was what I decided to pursue instead. But yeah, I think what was transformative for me was just learning to be on my own. I think being a part of the football team was really great for me because that provided me community as well. And that's one of the things I don't know if I wasn't on the football team and having that built-in community and coaches who looked out for me, I feel for students who don't have a support system like that, because I had 150 guys around me and a couple dozen coaches as well. And I had people who could see what was going on with me. But if I was just a quiet kid on campus, I don't know. I don't know if I would still be here. So that for me is something I always take with me. But it was really the mentors that I had here on campus that helped me learn to grow, to be a man, to take on a lot of things that I was dealing with internally. So for them, I'm eternally grateful for all that stuff.
Can you keep going with that mentorship piece? So the University of Iowa, of course, tries to foster a culture of mentorship, and that clearly made a big impact on you during your time. Can you dive in a little bit deeper about that? And I guess specifically, how did they influence you, and perhaps do you think you influenced your mentors at all?
Yeah, Marvin Sims is someone, I wish you all could have met him. He was just the best human being. He was someone who was always around the Iowa program. I don't remember what his official, he was like the life coach, just someone, he was like the trusted figure. Yeah, he just kind of did everything for us. And he was someone who I don't know if I would have been willing to go to therapy if it wasn't him. Because even before we started talking one-on-one, he was just someone who was respected by all. He would also, he would also come in and give us our, behave yourself when it comes to women's speech every year. So that was definitely a thing he did as well. And he was just someone who was patient. There were times where I remember there was one time where I was just really manic. And I really never struggled with mania, except that there was one time, for some reason, I felt like I had 1,000 thoughts at once, and I did not know what to do. It was the weekend. I didn't know where to go. And I just picked up the phone, and I called him. And he talked me down. he gave me what I needed in that moment. And if it wasn't for him, again, I don't know if I would be here. But that's something that I really appreciate, is having like Dr. Parrott, who pulled me aside and said, I think you can do more. I believe in you. That was so important for me. Having, like, again, Marvin, having him there for me. And he was someone, you know, one of the regrets I do have, again, like I'm not really a regret person. The regret I do have is when I got signed by WWE, I wasn't really still talking to him because I was waiting, in my mind, I was waiting for the moment that I got called up to the main roster because, you know, when you get signed by WWE, you have to go down to FCW in Tampa, which is just like a developmental system. It's like AAA ball. You go down there and you work on your craft before you get called up to the main roster. And for me, I was just waiting and waiting until I could call him and say, you know what? They called me up. I'm on the big time. I'm on TV. Thank you so much for everything you did. But unfortunately, he passed away. And I hope he knows and knew how much I appreciated him, how much I loved him, how instrumental he was in my life. And I'm so grateful for that man, for his character, for his patience. Just a wonderful, wonderful human being, someone that I aspire to be more like. So, yeah, having someone like him in my life was so instrumental, and it's the reason that I'm still here today.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Marvin was a special man, certainly. So get your questions ready. We got one more here for you, but you got a lot of great Hawkeyes in this room. Some are here on their first semester, some are alum, some are staff, but everyone has their own individual experience at the university. Can you tell me about your favorite memory here at the University of Iowa, and what makes the University of Iowa special to you?
Ooh, that's a very good question. Man, it's hard not to, I'm trying not to pick just football moments because that's a very meathead thing to do. But yeah, you know, getting to play against, you know, Jake Long, I think, who was drafted #1 overall, and there's a picture of me, you know, coming around on a T end, tackle end stunt. So that was pretty cool. Man, being in the dorms was fun. I have a lot of memories. So Hillcrest was my dorm. There was one time, I remember, so my first year, I roomed with Harold, another football player, and there was another man by the name of Ted Bentler who, Ted is a very interesting human being.
A big meaty man.
He's a big meaty man, but Ted was very, very serious. He ended up transferring to West Point and played there, but we were roommates, and I remember he was very serious, like did not really joke around much. He went to bed on time, very disciplined. But I remember we were in bed, sound asleep. I remember this commotion, thinking, this feels like a dream, but it kept going on. It got louder and louder. Like, this is not a dream. This is, all right. And I eventually came to. I wake up, and it's just getting louder and louder. I was like, what is going on? Ted eventually wakes up, too, and I hear what sounds like other students, and this is inside, in the hall. I open the door, and they set up a slip and slide at 3 in the morning, down the hall. That is my memory. Waking up at 3 in the morning my sophomore year with a full slip and slide. I think from the end of the door all the way down the hall. I don't know what they used to lubricate the slip and slide. I don't know if it was soap or not, but they were doing their thing. And there might have been about a dozen of them too. But that's something that sticks out in my mind. Yeah, that's college. That's good times. Yeah.
Well, on that happy note,
no ideas for you undergrads. Don't set up a slip. Outdoors, please. Outdoors.
Yeah, was that RA still around after that, or was that the end?
That might have been the last day for the RA,
right.
Unfortunately.
So we do. I know Eli and some of the people on our team here are going to help us out. There's a couple of microphones floating around, but we have time for a handful of questions. If anybody, it looks like we got a couple over here.
Yeah. Okay, that's a great question. So I have been in love with Ponchero since I was 18 years old. I don't know what it is about this burrito chain, but it has been, so we will run shows. I'm going to get to that answer in a second. But we'll run shows in like the Cedar Rapids area with WWE. So the great thing is I was able to come back to Iowa, you know, a couple times a year, pretty much throughout my entire career. And always my first stop would be Poncheros. As soon as I come into town, and Mike and our spot was the downtown Poncheros. Looking out that plate glass window, we love people watching. That is our spot. But my go-to order, I was actually just I'm doing a bunch of things with Pancheros, and it's been incredible. I was actually in Marlton, New Jersey yesterday at a Pancheros, and they asked me oh, what? Oh, okay. Yeah, she's lovely. That's awesome. So my go-to order, I don't eat a lot of red meat, but something about that steak. So what I like to have is rice, black beans, double steak. A lot of, don't skimp on the steak. Double steak, queso, fresh veggies, corn, pico de gallo, and a little bit of cheese. I got here in '04. There was no Bob. We didn't bob it up. It was all, you just wrapped it as it is. But then they brought the Bob in, started stirring that bad boy, so all the flavors are mixed nice. So that is my go-to order. But typically, I'll do that. That could be a little decadent. So sometimes my second or third burrito will actually be a bowl. But that's when I first come into town, that's my order. The double steak with the, queso. You gotta have the queso. And, I'm very excited. So my lovely girlfriend, Kristen, I've been talking to Pancheros so much, and unfortunately her flight was delayed. I was hoping we could get her Pancheros before we got here today, but we're busy today. But I'll be actually from 3 to 5 tomorrow. If you want to come downtown to the Clinton Pancheros, I'll be there. We have giveaways and whatnot. Yes, little plug for Pancheros. From 3 to 5, and we're going to make sure that she gets her very first burrito from Pancheros. Thank you for that incredible question. Sorry, sir. That shirt you're wearing? Thank you. Bless you. Bless you, sir. Bless you. Thank you.
Been a fan since before you were a brony with AJ Lee back in the day.
You remember?
Huge fan. Drove in from Des Moines. I'm a high school history teacher, and just to hear you talk about mental health, and as you were talking up here, I was thinking of students. I've got some students that are going through struggles that you're talking about. And you kind of touched on this a little bit. My question was, what is something you would have wanted to hear when you were going through those struggles in high school and college? Or better yet, what would you say now that you needed to hear when you were going through that?
It's a great question. I think just that I have value, that I'm loved, that you're worthy of good things. These are all things internally that I didn't believe and I didn't know, and these weren't messages that I got regularly at home. But just this concept of yeah, you belong here, and people aren't just saying nice things to you to be nice, that they like you, that you have value. All those things I think are, again, sound so simple, especially now that I'm in this great place, but at that time would have just meant so much to me. And I think that's just worth reinforcing. And it's so hard, I think, for us all to find our purpose and to find our communities and to find what we love and our passion and why we're here. And that takes so much time. But just hey, we care about you. We love you. We truly love you and value you. And to mean it and to just look someone in the eyes earnestly and to let them know you're here on earth for a reason and you can do so much good with your life. I think just having all those messages of worthiness would have meant so much to me. Of course.
So, you mentioned a lot about how, you got the spot you wanted to be, you're entertainer, you're happy where you are. But on the way to, say, after college, when you started going to SCW, how did you handle, the stress of knowing you might not make it to where you want to be, you might not become who you are now, that there's possibly that might happen. Also, do you miss the Langston in your name?
I do. I mean, I've gotten used to just being Big E, and it's fine. But I do miss having a last name, and they just took it from me, for no real reason. But I guess Big E is just easier. It's a great question. I think, in many ways, I felt like it was a job that I took on a whim. So I kind of felt like I was playing with house money, and if I didn't, I kind of thought they'd fire me after a few months anyways. So I was like, all right, I got nothing really to lose here. They told me, I remember vividly having a meeting with my, I don't remember the term, but my supervisor when I was in grad school. And I remember them telling me, when I was like, you know what, I think I'll take this opportunity with WWE. Your credits expire in 10 years. I was like, I'll be back well before then. It's been 15 years. Those credits have expired. So yeah, I finished half my master's, but I got signed with WWE before I completed it. But I think for me, it was just, I felt like this is something that I didn't dream of, even though I love it and I'm passionate about it. It's, let me just give it my best. And that's kind of been my approach. I feel like all of my life is just winging it, and I don't know how it works. I truly don't know how any of this is working. I didn't prepare today. I didn't take notes. I didn't do any of those things. I just stood up here and babbled. And for some reason, it works well enough that people keep asking me back. Same thing with wrestling. I did my best to learn my craft, to learn how to cut a good promo, all those things, but I always feel like I'm just winging it. And one of the things that I've come to understand being around other people in entertainment and other people in all walks of life is all of us, damn near all of us, are struggling with imposter syndrome. So many people, like Bianca Belair is so dope. That woman, if you're a wrestling fan, she's one of the most incredible athletes I've ever been around. Very natural talker, super charismatic, beloved. She always is struggling with imposter syndrome. Same with Becky Lynch, who is so immensely talented. And I start to realize so many of my peers, so many of the people around me who have done incredible things for years, who have this track record of accomplishment, of fanfare, of being beloved by others, these massive followings, and they'll get back from doing incredible things and ask, was that any good? How was I? So I realized so much of this struggle we all feel, even people who are very, very accomplished. So for me, I just felt like, you know what? Although I never thought I was the best in ring. I was never the best talker. I was never the best at what I did. But I felt like I have something to offer this industry. And I always for me, it wasn't about, I didn't want to be the next John Cena. I didn't want to be the next Rock. I just wanted to be the best version of me. And I fought for especially, several years in my career, especially with the New Day, when people were telling me to be a champion, to be a WWE champion, you have to be more serious, you have to be more earnest, you can't wear bright colors, you can't do this or that. And I just said, you know what? I want to sink or swim on my own merits. If I sink because of something you made me do, I'll never be able to live that down. But if I sink on my own because I wasn't good enough, if I didn't have it, I can rest easy at night because I got to do things my way. And for me, that has been the biggest blessing, is I get to be my weird, goofy, unorthodox self, and it works. And that's what I'm so grateful for, is sticking to my guns. And so I thought there were many times I thought I was close to being on the chopping block. I didn't know if I'd ever get called up, but I just felt like, man, just give it your best and worry about the rest later. And that fortunately has carried me well in life, and that's kind of just been my recipe.
All right. First off, I'd like to say I'm a huge fan. So working with the New Day and Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, what would you say is like your funniest or like favorite moment like working with them?
Man, we have so many moments. Those guys are a blessing. Those guys have really become my brothers. So we formed this, for those of you who don't know, we formed this tag team, which is actually 3 people in it, but we ended up doing a lot of tag team wrestling together. This year will be our 10-year anniversary in like November. And that is so rare in WWE. Factions don't last that long. Teams don't last that long. But there are so many times I just have these recollections of crying laughing with those guys. Some of my favorite moments in wrestling are when we all get bumped to the floor and we're all like clustered. We're not being shot by the TV cameras, and we'll have our moments, our little powwows. We'll just crack each other up. Man, there's so many incredible moments. I'm trying to think of any good stories. We've done a lot of silly things over the years. This very stupid game, we would book hotels together for many years. We would travel together, and it's so stupid, but we invented this thing I would call it the creep shuffle. So we would book on Hotwire, we'd get the 3 keys, and the game was whoever when you add up, not the highest number. So let's say you have room 52, room 51, and room 49. You add up the 2 numbers, and whoever has the lowest of the numbers, they have a punishment. And oftentimes it was to carry the bags up. For some reason, my partner Xavier Woods hates Breaking Bad. Hates it. So we made him watch 5 episodes of Breaking Bad. And this man would be just irate. But we called it the creep shuffle because I don't know why. I just do a lot of silly, nonsensical things. But I would do this dance. So I'd book the hotels and I'd have all the key cards. And I would do a little, who wants it? So I'd do a little silly dance and then they'd grab their keys and then we would add up the totals. And that's the creep shuffle. Very stupid, but we're wrestlers. We're on the road a lot. We have to entertain ourselves. We're all just grown children. So that was a thing that we did oftentimes. The punishments, having Woods carry Kofi's bags, when he had the lowest number as well. But those guys would do a lot of silly things. Like there was one time where for some reason they could control the radio from the back seat, and I was driving, and I would, every 20 minutes or so, there would be a switch to another radio station. I'm like, what is wrong with this car? What is going on? Woods is just back stifling a laugh. It's very funny to him. And I keep driving. Someone's, what is wrong with this car? Is this, what wrong with the radio? And we're very stupid. I feel like these stories are not good because you have to be there in the moment. But we're children. So I have a myriad of memories all stories like that are very dumb, and I feel silly even explaining them. But no, we have a lot of fun together. I love those guys. I've being able to see their kids grow up, to see their wives and seeing them grow. We've been together for a whole decade, and we've shared so many incredible memories. Kofi got to be WWE champion at WrestleMania and have his kids come down to the ring. We've shared so many incredible memories. We were three guys who simply wanted to save our jobs. We were like, Woods and I were on the cutting block. Kofi was contemplating retiring. We just wanted to save our jobs, and we ended up breaking a WWE record that had stood for 20 years, the longest reigning tag team champs at the time. We had, WWE named us the greatest tag team of all time. That's insane, that's absurd. And now the Usos, you could argue that they have. Thank you. But that's been the story of my life. There's so many things that I feel like I stumbled into, and I'm so grateful for this journey because I never, ever fathomed that when I said yes to WWE 15 years ago that I would have the opportunity to do all these incredible things. And for me, it's not about the accolades. It's not about the money. It's about the memories. It's about all the times that we had together that I will always deeply cherish.
I hate to put this out there, but probably time for a couple more questions, and thank you so much for the questions so far.
Yeah, very much so. I wish it was a quick fix, and I think that's the difficult thing when talking to people who are really struggling. Is it took me a long time. It took me many, many years. Medication was not an overnight success for me by any means. The same thing with the ECTs. I didn't come out of the hospital and think, man, I feel great. Depression is gone. These things took time for me, and for me, it was also honestly, wrestling helped me a ton because as someone who didn't see much value in myself, I think over time I thought, when people started saying nice things about my performance or the things I did in the ring, you're just being nice. But over time I kept thinking, people aren't that nice. You know what I mean? You start hearing it over and over and over again. You start to believe, hey, maybe I'm not the worst. So I think that helped me a ton, is finding a craft that I felt like I was good at, and I felt more confident, and getting feedback from others and knowing, okay, you are good at something. That helped me a ton. I think the separation, I never tried to point the finger at my parents or assign blame. They're both immigrants. My dad's from Jamaica. My mom's from Montserrat. I feel like they did the best with what they were given. My dad grew up in a very abusive household where his dad had money in Jamaica and had a second family, but didn't take care of any of his previous kids. And for my dad, in his mind, I put a roof over your head. I'm present. I'm here every day. I'm a great dad. But he didn't understand that, you know, a lot of the ways he spoke to us, the way he treated us, the lack of affection and love, he didn't realize how damaging those things were. And I think my mom, similarly, like she grew up in a pretty stoic household as well. So she didn't have the tools really to give a lot of these things. So I try not to ever, it's not about assigning blame for me. It's not about pointing the finger at my parents or what I didn't have. So for me, I think I also just needed more time out of that environment. I think I needed more time on my own to learn about myself, to learn that I was capable, to also learn about the world. You know, my parents were very insular. We weren't allowed to have sleepovers. I never celebrated Halloween. It was really, you know, I would go to work. I would do my sports. I would go to school. I spent a lot of time in church. I mean, a lot of time in church. We're talking about like 8 hours a week in church. And God forbid there be a revival, because we'd be in church for 20 hours that week. So it's a lot of church. My dad's a preacher, so we just spent, you know, a lot of time there. So I think for me, I needed more time to kind of be on my own, to learn to be an adult, to grow, to see the world, to experience the world. And so that time was helpful for me. And yeah, I think that was a big part of growth. And honestly, I commend every one of you who's in college now. It was such a hard age for me. And so I just needed time to grow up as well, to experience more of the world, to find my community, to find other people who are like me. And also to know, like, man, I think oftentimes, like, we all have these preconceptions about us. And I think when people look at me, especially like as a black male, it's another reason. Like, I love talking to all people about mental health, but also as black men, because I think there is also a certain box that people so often try to put us in that you have to be masculine, uber masculine. You have to be tough. Like, we got a lot of negative feedback about us wearing pink and rainbow colors and being silly, and like, I got pretty flexible legs, so I can actually do a split. So I do a split in the ring. But we would get a lot of these messages about, you know, being effeminate or you're not manly enough, all these things. But for me, I grew to love the freedom as a performer. I just wanted to be me. More than anything, I wanted to go out there and not worry about what kind of box I was supposed to be in. But, you know, with WWE, we have this NIL program, and oftentimes we're able to go around and talk to a lot of different football programs. And, you know, I love talking to just everyone in general, but especially as black men, and letting them know, like, oftentimes you feel so confined, like, you know, from all around you. People have certain expectations of how you should carry yourself, who you're supposed to be. And I felt so much of that as a young man. And it took me a long time to learn to be comfortable being a little goofy, being a little weird, being a little different, and being comfortable in my own skin took me time. So yeah, I think that's a great question, and I think it was just I needed the time to find who I was, to find my community, and to learn where I can thrive and around what people I thrive.
One more.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, balance was hard, especially as an athlete. Because mind you, I also, on top of everything, I also had the ACL tears, and they were in camp. So now, my freshman year at age 18, so I got to Iowa a little early during the summer. We did summer workouts, the voluntary workouts. So we did those. I went through that, and then we got to camp. But I tore my ACL, so I'm on crutches in a brand new state around a new community, dealing with that, dealing with figuring out where everything is, dealing with, like, I had rehab before, I had a 7:30 class, and I had to go to rehab before my 7:30 class. I'm in class all day. So man, balance was, I felt like, especially as an athlete, there was very little time in season where I didn't have blocks of time that weren't accounted for. Like, everything was accounted for. So finding time is hard. And even when that was over, I think I really had a hard time. And I didn't know how to prioritize my life or to find balance. That was something I just didn't have a good handle of at 18 to 22. So I didn't do a good job at making sure I could find time to do everything. If I could go back now, I would just force myself, like, you need to make time for, even if you have to wake up at 5 a.m. to meditate or to make time for therapy, because it would have saved me, and that's what I needed at the time. But even now, I think I have a much better handle of figuring out my time, and I'm all over the place, and I'm busy, and thankfully I have a really supportive partner who understands that and allows me to do all the different things. But I do have, there are some things that I'm firm on. Like, I never want to have so much work that I feel inundated or I feel too stressed. So if I'm always like, all right, if need be, I'll take something off the plate to make sure that I have time to still be a human and to still enjoy life and to still be present. So yeah, that's really, that's a difficult thing, finding balance. I don't know if it is balance because it doesn't feel equitable on all sides. It doesn't feel like the pie is split, equally amongst everything that I do, amongst personal life and professional. But it's just really important for me to water the things that are most important. Like my relationship, that's really important. And if I ever feel like things are to a point where I'm too busy to put in everything that I need to, then it's okay. Then we need to have a conversation, and I need to pull back. So yeah, it's I think it's really just determining what is most important to you. What are your non-negotiables? The idea of me like stopping meditation is something that I won't do. So that's something that I will always strive to find time for. Working out is really important for not just my physical body, but also for my mental health. Like, that was always for me. The gym became a point of refuge. When I was really struggling with my mental health too, that was a place I could go in, and oftentimes, I was a maniacal kid when it came to working out. I started really working out for real when I was 12 years old, and I loved it. So I would spend 3, 4, sometimes 5, way too much time in the gym, but it was a place of solace for me, and that was something that I don't neglect because it's good for me, and I know it helps me with my mental health. It helps me feel like I'm disciplined and I'm doing the things that I need to. But yeah, in college, I didn't do a good job finding that balance, but now I feel like I'm at a place in life where the things that are most important to me are being nourished and watered, and yeah, those things are important. So yeah, just do your best to pay attention to when the things that are important to you feel like they're not getting as much attention, and make sure those seeds are watered.
Well, everyone, thank you for the great questions. Thank you for tonight. We're going to have Nora come up here in a second and kind of put a bow on this. But in the spirit of what you shared, I just want to communicate to everybody out here that, like, everyone needs to hear this, but somebody especially needs to hear it. It's like, you're valued, you're loved, right? And we value, we love you. We're damn glad you're a Hawkeye, and thanks for sharing tonight. This was awesome. Thank you
So much. Yeah.